What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a very special episode. I wasn't gonna say breaking news episode, but I'm probably about 12 hours too late to this situation. But if you have not already heard, Collectors, the parent company of PSA that owns PSA, is set to purchase SGC. And man, the memes are just hilarious. The memes are hilarious. They're all over the place. So it's probably about 9 o'clock in the morning here in Texas. I just woke up, still got my coffee and stuff. So but I typically try not to look at my phone for maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of the morning. Get up, wash your face, all that stuff, do all the normal morning routine stuff. But as I looked over to grab my phone, turn off the alarm and stuff, the amount of notifications that I had was insane, and I got a little worried because there were some friends of mine that I know personally that were messaging me, IMing me, text messaging me and stuff with all the news. And so naturally I just started, open up and started scrolling through this, and I'm just like, holy hell, I cannot believe that this happened. Now let's just go. So I first things first, right? Sports Collectors Daily. This is the article that they have written on it. Holding company, and there's really not much going on here. All they're saying, all the articles that are out there are just talking about how the sale is going to happen. There's no details. There's no no comments from either side just yet. All right, guys, sorry, we got to interject here because I'm making this just as I'm creating the video for this morning, and turns out that SGC has issued a statement on this, and we're gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch just this live with y'all, so we'll see kind of how this goes. So here we go.
Hey everyone, this is Peter with SGC, bringing you the most exciting news our team has ever shared. As many of you know, SGC has been a mainstay in the hobby for over 2 decades, and in recent years, our team has made a very aggressive push to expand the SGC footprint and offer collectors the best grading experience possible. Every decision that we've made and every action that we've taken, we've had you, the collectors that we serve, at the forefront of our minds. Thanks to all of your support, the SGC team has been able to accomplish so much. And together, we've made a meaningful and lasting impact on the entire trading card community. Today, we announce something that we firmly believe will make SGC, our supporters, and the hobby as a whole even stronger moving forward. Collectors, the global leader in authentication, grading, and collection management products and services, has officially acquired SGC and welcomed us in its family of industry-leading brands. To be clear, SGC will remain an independent grading brand, and no changes are contemplated. Joining forces with the Collectors team will allow SGC to double down on our strengths while greatly enhancing our capabilities to innovate and modernize our offerings moving forward. Our customer service, turnaround time, grading standards, and deep commitment to the community that we serve will not be changing. Rather, we will be building upon these pillars even further. With the resources and expertise of collectors behind us, the sky is truly the limit as to what SGC can achieve. And I am so excited to say that there has never been a better time to be collecting and grading with SGC. I want to thank the Collectors team for putting their faith behind SGC and our passionate community of collectors. And I want to thank my team for the outstanding work that all of you have done. We never dreamed the journey would take us this far, but on a day like today, it is very clear that at SGC, we're still only getting started. Thank you all so much, and you'll be hearing from us again very soon.
Well, a couple of questions answered there. SGC will continue to be a standalone brand. That's interesting. I don't know how to feel about all of this. I hear what Pete's saying, right? You guys know I love Pete. I'm a big fan of what he's done. I just can't help to think how things are going to get better when there's no competition. Better for them, maybe. Better for SGC as an organization, of course. Better for collectors as a portfolio manager of top brands within the hobby, of course. Money, of course. Everything's going to get better. I'm just not seeing where this is going to be good for the hobby. So, anyway, I've interjected this into to an already long video, but we'll see in the next coming days. We'll see how it pans out. Obviously, this news, and I usually don't go to bed till like 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe midnight. I'm kind of a night owl. Last night, for some reason, I went to bed like at 9, and so apparently this news broke like at 10 o'clock at night. So there's all kinds of funky stuff going on. But I started to think about like why collectors, for two things. Number one, why collectors would buy SGC. What would they need from them? And then why would SGC sell to them? And so I'll talk about the first piece about why I speculate. This is all just my opinion. There's nothing out there that even speaks to what I'm saying. But what I'm hoping happens. So there's two things here. Overall, this is bad for the hobby, right? Because the least amount of and this is just a very general statement. It's bad for the hobby because the least amount of competition that's out there, the less reason for things to happen, for companies to tighten up and offer better services to us, the collectors. So from that standpoint, I don't like the deal, obviously. I was a big proponent of SGC doing things right as opposed to PSA doing things wrong. And I still kind of feel that way a little bit. But the only reason I would see why collectors would actually buy SGC is because the vintage piece of things. There's a lot of things that you can argue in terms of SGC or PSA being better than SGC, right? They sell for more money. The slab is, more widely accepted in the hobby. They are king in terms of numbers and the amount of cards being submitted to them and all that stuff. And if you really look at, one of the things I want to take a look at is gem rate numbers. If you start looking at the numbers, you can really understand kind of what's going on, because when it comes to, we'll take January as an example here. Let's take a look at January. 1.2 million cards graded up against 184,000 from CGC, and then 157,000 from SGC, and then nobody really cares about Beckett. If you look at what's going on with the amount of cards graded in totality, obviously SGC's king, and then CGC outplays SGC by a very small margin. But when you start looking at things like sports cards only, just sports only, take out TCG, sports only, SGC is number 2 in terms of the next biggest competitor to PSA, and CGC just falls way below, right? TCG is where CGC really shines. SGC falls way below, which I'm actually surprised Beckett has more than they do. But so when it comes to the sports card game, PSA is number 1 in the sports card game. Overall, they're number 1. PSA is number 1 in the sports card game. SGC is number 2. And we'll look at something really interesting, which is why I think this whole buyout happened. And then when it comes to TCG, CGC is number 2. PSA is still number 1. So above all things, PSA is always going to be number 1. But their next closest competitor is sports cards, is SGC. So again, TCG, all this other stuff, SGC is number 2. But if we start looking at things by era, you'll notice where PSA is very next competitor is right here, right? So they have all this sports in the 90s and 50s. Look at this 1950s and earlier, 1960s and earlier. They have an advantage there because everybody overall believes that SGC is the, if you go on vintage, if you have a vintage card, there's a strong argument that you don't send that card to PSA, you send it to SGC because they have the expertise, the experience to deal with these older cards, the 1960s, 1950s, 1950 and lower, the tobacco cards, the pre-wars, all that stuff. That's where SGC beats PSA. And so it's just interesting that if SGC was to collect, no, jump over here. If PSA does go through and buy, or collectors does go through and buy SGC, I'm really curious as to how they're going to structure all of that, right? Is the SGC name going to fall off? Are they going to completely kill off the SGC name, roll in their processes, and bring in their expertise for the vintage side of things? Are they going to continue with the SGC slab, the SGC case, the tuxedos that have made the SGC so famous? There's all of that has yet to be seen. We don't know how that's going to happen. But I promise you, the reason why PSA or collectors wanted SGC was for their vintage expertise. There's no other reason why I would see them buying them out, other than because in terms of competition, there just was no competition with everything else. With TCG, there's no competition. Sports cards, there's no competition. They are a clear number 2. PSA is a clear number 1 by a long shot. And so there's no reason for them to, in my opinion, be threatened by SGC in any other section of grading other than the vintage piece. And so that's why PSA wanted them, or collectors wanted them. The other piece of this is, why did SGC sell? And I think that a huge portion of that is back to the same data set, right? SGC is never going to get to number 1 and beat out PSA on anything. They're not going to do it on TCG. They're definitely not going to do it on sports cards. They made a run at them when it came to the new Bowman stuff, the new top stuff, where they were grading at $9. And there was a significant amount of influx of cards. It almost made no sense for you to send a card to PSA for $20 and wait 6 months or wait 2 months to get your cards back, when you can send it to SGC for $9 and turn a profit if you're going to sell it, or and then only wait maybe about 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or whatever the current wait times are for SGC. But they just were never, I don't think they were ever going to make any headway in terms of cutting back at that number 2, or even getting close to the number 2 spot on anything that wasn't vintage. I really liked SGC for a number of reasons, right? Or I still like SGC for a number of reasons. And I've gone over those in the past. But one of the reasons why I started to gravitate more towards PSA was because their pricing and turnaround times have dropped significantly. And SGC wasn't running any specials that were catering to me as a collector. I don't collect tops. I don't collect Bowman. I don't do baseball. I do basketball. I do a little bit of football. And even when they ran a football special, I did take part in that. But I didn't. There was not a lot of interaction for me in SGC at this time because they're just not running anything that caters to me as a basketball collector. And I don't know how much of that decision went into, do we just sell now? Do we continue to run how we're running? But I could see SGC at some point deciding, well, we have this great offer from collectors to buy our organization, and I gotta imagine it was a really one of those offers you can't refuse type scenarios. in which they said, hey, this is a great exit for everyone, and we're going to, we're gonna sell, and hopefully our process lives on through the vintage piece of things. Again, this is all speculation. I can't really say for certain why or who or when, but there's a lot of this doesn't leave much competition when it comes to the grading side of things, because let's face it, outside of PSA and SGC, CGC really doesn't matter in the sports card side of things. Beckett is in the sandbox picking their nose, and nobody really cares about them. So if and when this deal does go through, which is starting to sound more like when than if, we're not going to be left with much in terms of options. Unless Fanatics just somehow buys up CGC and Beckett at the same time and creates their own monster of a grading company, at which point things would get very interesting. Man, could you imagine if that happened? Anyway, again, this is all breaking stuff that's just getting speculated. All of the articles, if you go out and read them, they all basically say the same thing. Collectors is buying SGC, and then they just go into detail about what Collectors is, and they go into detail about what SGC is, and there's no rhyme or reason about what's going to happen, the structure of what's going to happen, the details of the deal, whether or not SGC is going to stay alive in terms of of its own individual brand, or if they're just going to get folded into PSA altogether. But as things start to develop and start to unfold, obviously I'm going to be on top of it, because I haven't really been on top of breaking news recently because there really hasn't been a whole lot. But this is a big one. And so what is this going to do for the prices of SGC slabs, right? If they end up doing away with everything. I have the majority of my collection is actually, it's probably about half and half PSA SGC. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This is a very seismic shift in the landscape of the grading side of this hobby. So I'm very curious to get you guys' opinions and thoughts and why you guys think it's going on. Do you guys think this is good? Do you guys think this is bad? I'm kind of in the middle, right? Depending on how things get structured, we'll see how it goes. But I don't know. This is very, very interesting news on a Thursday morning that I was certainly not expecting. I don't think anybody was expecting this news. And if anybody tells you that they knew that this was going to happen, they're absolutely lying. So we'll see what happens. But thank you guys as always. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. And we'll catch you guys on the next video. I was going to drop my deep dive PSA video today, but that'll be tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Appreciate you guys as always. Love y'all. Peace.